And on today's Nightmare Fueled Adventure, we're going to dive back into everything that 2024 had to offer in the world of horror. Now, this year had a lot of great horror films, and it made it very hard this time around, at least for me, to come up with a good top 10 list. There was a lot, even last minute, I had to cut that just painfully hurt. But I feel like I do have a good list. How about you?
I love my list. I think it's good. It really surprises me how different our likes and dislikes are of these movies that we watched this year. So curious to see what our different likes and dislikes are, because we definitely have a hugely, vastly different list.
Now, did it come down to the wire for you?
Yes, it did. It did. Because there was a few that we just watched. That actually made the list that I didn't expect to.
Yep. Alright, so it's ladies first, so go ahead.
Alright, starting with my number 10. I couldn't pick one for just my number 10, so I have two. I have Strange Darling, as well as Salem's Lot. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so Salem's Lot will always pretty much make a list for me. But there were a few little plot holes, and I think some of the filming could have been a little bit better for Salem's List, so that's why it's at number 10 instead of higher on my list. And then Strange Darling was a surprise. I actually never even heard of the movie. He introduced me to it one night, told me, you have to watch this, and it had a really nice twist that you kind of figure out, but you don't until they actually reveal it, and it I don't know, like it captured me, and I really, really enjoyed Strange Darling. So if you haven't seen it, you should watch it.
Salem's Lot I enjoyed, but to her point, there was a lot of plot holes in that film, and it did feel like material was left on the cutting floor from the Stephen King novel, and that's what kept it out of my top 10. However, I did enjoy it. Strange Darling, I see that everybody's ranking that really high. It didn't make my list. That was the one that was hard to cut. I completely agree with you. It turns a simple premise, a simple question on its head, and it takes you along for a ride. Also, if you love Quentin Tarantino, like, this is filmed in the same exact style, so you're going to love it.
Yep.
Alright, so my number 10 just came out. It's been a huge hit, and it's been a lot of people's number ones, and I get why. But at number 10, it's Nosferatu. To me, this did something great. It took, I believe it was 1922, don't quote me on that the original came out. And it took that little, what would be now a short film, and gave us something really of a gothic vampire noir in a way. The lighting, like, the whole movie's lit by candlelight. That's impressive. The shadow play in this film was amazing. Some of the best I've ever seen. And the acting, like, everyone showed the play, but for me, Nicholas Hoult, like, stole this for me over Bill Skarsgård. So that's my number 10. What's your number 9?
So number 9 for me is Trap. I know this probably didn't make many people's list, but I do have a soft spot for Josh Hartnett. He has been my celebrity crush my entire life. So anything he's in is probably going to make my top 10 list. Yes, the third act was a mess. Yes, this may have been M. Night Shyamalan's way of showcasing his daughter's musical talents, as some people say, but I just, I don't know, I just like the premise of a serial killer being held in the concert and just trying to find his way out. I mean, there was some crazy moments that probably wouldn't happen in real life, but there was parts of it enough that I liked that it would be, my number 9. Well, don't forget Josh Hartnett shirtless.
I have a huge problem with that, of why you should judge a movie that way. But
it wasn't the whole reason.
I feel like it's a majority of the reason. I'm also a huge Josh Hartnett fan, and I think the only thing it was best at, in my opinion, was it offered one of the best trailers of the year, which led into, for me, spoiler, the worst film of the year. I despise this film. I was so angry leaving the theater. Half awake, already mad I went, as tired as I was. So mad at this film.
See, I didn't hate it. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
I just so, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Music was good, actually. I thought it was.
That's the movie.
Yes.
Yes.
It had good, catchy music.
Mm,
You know.
mhm.
I mean, it was no Faculty and it was no Pearl Harbor, but, you know.
But Pearl Harbor has its own problems.
Oh, no, don't go there.
All right, so
Okay, what's your number
8.
9?
Oh, it's my number 9 now?
Uh-huh.
VHS Beyond. So this is streaming on Shudder. I have actually never watched a VHS film for how much I love found footage. So I had heard all the hype about this one, and mainly I wanted to see what Justin Long, him directing and writing a short for this, was going to look like. This is the first anthology film I've ever seen where every story, all 5 of them, are bangers. Every single one of them, they're not a letdown. They offer something new, and Justin Long's and his wife did a segment on this that is probably the best and has nothing to do with the subject matter of the film. And he is one of those that just really loves the Project Tusk. And I'll leave it at that.
I did not get to see this film, so I can't comment on it, and that's why it didn't make my list, because I hadn't seen it yet.
Alright, so-
Alright, number 8 was First Omen. Actually, this one really surprised me.
Yeah.
You know, I did watch the original Omen back in the day with some friends, and it scared me. And but I was kind of iffy on watching this one. It took me some time before I watched it, and I'm actually really sad I didn't go see it in the theaters and didn't watch it sooner, because I have to say it was very, very good. The acting, the filming, everything, like it really kind of gave you that answer of the origin of it. So I really enjoyed it. It is a definite must watch.
I wanted to put The First Omen on my list so bad. To be honest, Strange Darling and The First Omen were my toughest cuts. I love, like her, I love the original, and then that's it. I don't like the sequels. I despise the remake.
Yeah.
So, no, I waited for streaming, and I honestly waited for a lot of people out there, word of mouth, to even watch it at home.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, we're getting really burnt out on all the exorcism, religious horror films that have just flooded in the past, it feels like 3 or 4 years. So this one did fall under the radar, and I do regret, like her, not going to theaters to see it. It did offer... It's hard to pull off a good prequel. And this one is one of those that pulls it off in a very fine way.
Yes.
That's the good I'll say about it. Alright, oh, it is me.
Yep.
Alright, so this one, and I don't know why people aren't talking about this more. So, my number 8 is Beetlejuice. Like, we have so many movies out there that are getting sequels that are 20, 30 years out that aren't any good. Beetlejuice came around and proved everything wrong about that. This was a perfect timing. This was a perfect setup. This was a perfect story. Everyone showed up to play. This is Michael Keaton at his best. I think he actually did better in this one than he did in the first one. And I will die on that hill. But everything made sense. And I just found myself laughing so hard at the stupidest stuff. The simplest jokes were delivered in such a way that I had tears. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand why people aren't... It was a big hit. Why is this not on more people's list? Are we not saying it's horror? It's technically a horror comedy. It's PG-13, but Poltergeist was PG. So, but that's mine.
Yep. Well, that actually leads into Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice is my number 7. So I definitely am another one. I am a huge fan of the original. I have watched it so many times I could probably quote the whole thing from start to finish. I mean, look, my earrings are even Beetlejuice related today. But and it was amazing. Like, I love how it took the nostalgia for, you know, people like us who
Yeah.
fans of the original, and then it also brought a new fresh flavor to it with, you know, like for the younger crowd of the ones that don't know Beetlejuice as much. And it had that like the comedy, and I loved the story and where it was going, and you know, Winona Ryder just brought back that character right away.
Yeah.
And it was really good. And there was actually a little bit of a twist in there that took me a minute to figure out, that I was just like, because I was like, oh, there's something wrong, and yep. But I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to watch it again. So that's why I bumped it up to my number 7.
And also, it had a character in the film named Jeremy.
That is true. Well, yeah.
That alone got it on the list. All right, so
number 7.
Okay, so number 7 is going to be Stream. As much hype was around this film, and the fact that it was done by the same people who did Terrifier, I had to go see this. I was not. It was a limited screening, but we got the chance to go see it, and we got to see the behind-the-scenes featurettes and the welcome from the Levies in the beginning of it. I absolutely adore this film. Now, there's another movie out there called The Belko Experiment that this film reminds me of, and I absolutely love that one too. And seeing David Howard as player 2, seeing Jeffrey Combs as the overseer, and Tony Todd giving probably one of the last great final speeches of his career at the end of this. And not to even mention the surprise of Tim Curry. It's a movie that was made by horror fans for horror fans, and without the help of the horror community, it probably wouldn't have been as big as it is. This is a perfect horror film for people like me and her.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love Stream.
Exactly.
All right,
so number 6.
number 6.
My number 6 is Nosferatu. So I guess I'm a little higher on my list. I really, really enjoyed it, and I was actually very surprised. I did not know that was Bill Skarsgård until the very end. We're like walking down the steps of the theater, and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, like he played that so well. I mean, did not know. Obviously, there's a lot of prosthetics and things too, but he played that so well. And I just have to say, like, as he was saying, like, we're kind of oversaturated with a lot of like, you know, demon possession and things like that. But this movie, the acting of her being possessed, I think she did such a fantastic job at that, and that really, really bumped it up on my list for me. And I just really enjoyed Nosferatu. I thought it was very well put together, and it had me pretty much like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like I loved it. So that's why it's my number 6.
And that's another thing too. Of all the horror films, I got 3 really good jump scares out of this one. And anytime you can get me to jump, okay.
Yeah,
This is a good movie, probably.
Yeah, there were a couple jump scares. That was really good. So
all right, so my number 6. I already know it's not going to be on your list. This is one that she didn't get to see. I watched solo. It's called Low Lives, and it is streaming, I believe, on Tubi for free. And the fact that more people don't know about this film. So the whole thing is about a family going cross country in a Tucker and Dale kind of backwoods place, and they go for dinner at this Southerner's house, and not everything is as it seems. Now, I say that not to spoil anything because I knew nothing going into this film. However, it gives its twist away 10 minutes into it, and it does nothing but add more to the film instead of ruin it. So for everyone, and there's also a Supernatural alumni in there, and I'm a huge Supernatural fan, go check it out on Tubi. Go into it blind like I did. Don't even watch a trailer. Just go into it blind. Right.
Okay, I guess we're at our number 5. So our number 5 is Terrifier 3. Yeah, so Terrifier 3 is at number 5 for me. I would have liked to have had it higher, but there was just some other great movies out there that would have that kind of like knocked it down to number 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, so huge Terrifier fan. Like it's that movie. Like we came late to it when we saw Terrifier 2. Like after it was in the theaters, we always wondered, oh, it's the the deal with Art the Clown, but then once we watched it, we have been hooked.
Mhm.
My personal opinion, I like Terrifier 2 better than 3, but it still held its own, like, for it to be more of an indie horror film that is just produced and made so well, and it has such a cult fan following, and it lives up to Art's, savage body horror kills and, all that gore, and even his little bit of humor, and just how he does all that without speaking. It like really shows that, David Howard Thornton is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And and Damien's a great director
Oh, yeah.
for this, and they have a really amazing franchise, and I can't wait for even more of them. But yeah, so number 5, Terrifier 3, definitely.
All right, so stow my opinions on that one for a minute. All right, so my number 5 is going to be Late Night with the Devil. This thing had a lot of hype behind it at the end of last year at festivals, and it finally came out at the beginning of this year. I be honest, I've watched this 8 times this year. I love this film. I think it takes one of my favorite genres of found footage and creates something new with it. I love Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel. I watch them every night. So to take a found footage possession and put it to a monologue late night talk show was right up my alley to begin with. And the performances in it are just so good. So good. I didn't want to meet, I can't remember the name of the star of this film, but I want to meet him so bad now. I'm hoping he announces for cons. Fonzo, I know you met him. I'm so jealous. But Late Night for the Devil for me is my number 5.
Yeah, that one didn't quite make my list.
Yeah.
I'm not as found footage is his genre
That's
of
fine.
horror, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm more of like the horror comedy, I think, is my favorites, or some gore. But yeah, found footage isn't as big or high up on my list as it is now. Not to say that movie wasn't a terrible movie by any means. It was really good, and I do like the fact that it had like you said, the talk show.
Right.
It's kind of set in the 70s, but for me, I don't know. I just think that there was a little bit of like it kind of went all over the place there towards it was like the third act, and it just kind of lost me. So it was one of those like honorable mentions. I liked it. I enjoyed it. Just wasn't one of my favorites.
And I get that.
Yep.
Found footage is not everyone's cup of tea by no means.
Nope.
All right, number 4.
So my number 4 is The Substance. Oh, The Substance. So 1 through 4 has been really hard, or actually 2 through 4. Number 1 will always be number 1,
Yeah.
but 2 through 4 was really hard for me to decide. But The Substance, we just watched that, and it is amazing. Demi Moore is a rock star in that movie. It was so great. Like it kind of had that like vanity that's around, and then it had like some weird horror at the end with the like the mutation, and it was just, and I mean it really shows true of like the way the world is. Like everybody wants to be young and beautiful all the time. Nobody wants to age with the Botox and the the NAD and all of that is out there these days, and it really, I mean, it really kind of goes to show you how much somebody that's especially in the eye of the public all the time, how their vanity can really get to them, and and they just want to stay young and beautiful. And but I thought it was amazing, like just the way it was put together, and like how there was so much nudity in it, but none of it was sexualized. Because even like the part that was like more of like a sex scene was clothed. So, and I just really love the way that they handled all of that, and that's definitely my number 4. Like, love this movie.
All right, I'm going to save my opinion on that one too. All right, now to touch back, my number 4 is Terrifier 3. I so badly wanted to rank this higher, I really did. And I agree with you. I think, no offense, I just think the second one is the best one so far.
Yes.
The third one got really close.
Mm-hmm.
But I love everything that this film had to offer. I mean, it's Terrifier. We're horror fans. It's going to be a banger no matter what.
Mhm.
But the whole kid element thing to it was handled in a way that I loved. When a movie that is about over the top gore decides to play around with what you don't see but can only hear, and that's still terrifying.
Mhm.
Geniuses. They're just geniuses, and they're out there doing the Lord's work of horror every day. But there were 3 other films that I feel like kind of took it a step further than Terrifier 3 did. Again, no offense. Love you guys. I meet you all the time.
Mhm.
Talk to you as much as I can. But for a third entry in a franchise and still have this turned out, every one of y'all are horror icons. So
Sure.
that's my number 4.
Okay, so number 3. Number 3 is Lisa Frankenstein for me. Again, there's that kind of like 80s nostalgia, and it has, a lot of like Cole Sprouse. I just absolutely love him in Riverdale, and he did a phenomenal job in this movie. It was really awesome to learn that he had to learn mime to do this, which I wouldn't even think of that, but
No.
it was really cool in the panel when we met him this year that, he was talking about how he had to, to learn, because I just think it's fantastic. I mean, he did almost 95% of the movie all through miming and his facial expressions and his actions and all of that. And, and Catherine, she was amazing. I mean, she's been a rock star this year because she's in 2 of my top 10. But, yeah, so I really love that movie, and it was a really cool way of like portraying like a love story with some comedy, and it's got a little bit of the horror element, and this is definitely going to be, because I know it didn't do well in the box office, but this is definitely one of those like fan favorites. Like, it's going to be, it kind of has a cult following to it, and we definitely saw it at the convention how many people were dressed up for this movie when they were there. And I'm really hoping to meet Catherine one day and have her sign something with Lisa Frankenstein on it. But this is definitely my number 3.
This was the one that I did try to find a way to put on my list. I enjoyed this film a lot more than I thought I would. For some reason, I'm very hesitant when horror is PG-13, even especially horror comedies. This one, I didn't care. It did everything it could. It didn't need to be gory. It didn't need to be graphic. It was just funny, and it literally felt like you were watching Heathers meets Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Heathers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back on our convention video for Lisa Frankenstein, you'll hear Cole Sprouse tell that there was an alternate ending that he wished they could have filmed.
Mm-hmm.
If that alternate ending was filmed, this would probably be my number 1, because I would still be laughing.
That's true. That's
All
true.
right, so
what's your number 3?
My number 3, and go back to it, is A Substance. Found it late and immediately jumped to number 3. Could not get enough of this movie, and it's not for the reasons you think. This is literally the best Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde remake telling ever done.
Yes.
And the way that it takes in the sex sales in Hollywood and how that can corrupt somebody, and take the sexualization of that, and not one time is it out of place. Not one time is it overused. You are not thinking about Demi Moore being full frontal compared to what it's trying to tell you in the story. And I absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
She deserves an Oscar. She deserves at least a nomination.
Yes.
She's 62. I thought she was in her 50s. So wrong. Keep it up. Congratulations. Like,
Yeah.
you're like the best white person that's ever aged. So, congrats to everybody in this film. Amazing.
Yes.
There was a point, and I think we both felt it, where we thought this movie was over, and we still had 20 minutes to go, and we were like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
And what was next was the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
So thank you to everyone
The
that made
blood.
the substance.
The amount
Oh
of
my God.
blood. The amount
More-
of blood.
I really think there was more blood in that scene than in Evil Dead
Evil Dead.
Rise.
There's
Yeah.
a tie for that.
Yeah,
But
I do.
there's so much blood.
So much.
It was so great.
I felt sorry for Dennis
But
Quaid.
it also it reminded me that one scene kind of reminded me. It brought me back to Stand By Me with when he's eating the pies and then throws up all over the audience. So it kind of had that same feel to it. It was
Yeah,
just
I didn't think about that.
everybody was getting covered. It was great. It was like funny and gory and just like it was great.
How long is this gonna go for?
Yeah. It was excessive.
All right, so
All right, so my number 2 is actually Stream. Mine's up on it because this is one of those movies that ever since I've seen it, like I am just obsessed with it. Like it has a lot of like all of my horror favorites, actors and actresses, a lot that we've met. So it's really cool to watch them again in new films since we've seen them, and just everybody did a really great job. I just like the premise of the game, and they just trying to win this game and you know, kill off the different characters, and I absolutely love this movie, and I cannot wait to get a poster signed and meet the ladies and just talk to them about it and kind of pick their brain of where it came from, all about it. Like, when is the second one coming out? Because this is definitely one that kind of took me by surprise because it came out of nowhere, and I love this movie.
I will say I am really curious if and when we get a sequel, who are the other horror icons they're gonna put in this, because they used a lot of them in the first one, so it's like, well, who do we have left?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. You gotta throw Robert Englund in there somewhere.
Yeah, eventually that's coming.
That'll be it.
coming.
But yeah, the Stream is definitely, and I am so glad, and we are so lucky that we got to see it in the theaters. I know it wasn't shown everywhere, not everybody got to see it, but yeah, and I was really upset that there was probably only 6 of us in the theater, and it was just, we had to travel. The only theater that was showing it, but it was well worth it, 100%. Like, I love this movie.
All right, so
What's your number 2?
my number 2, Alien Romulus.
Didn't see it.
I don't want to talk about how much Alien she hasn't seen.
I've never seen it.
No, you just couldn't say that. Now we just lost subs.
I'm sorry. Don't no hate mail. Sorry, it's just not one that I've seen.
But for those out there that are fans of this franchise like me, for the past few years you've been like, when are we going to get Xenomorphs back in our Alien movies? When does that happen? Like, these engineers. And that's how I felt. I don't think Prometheus is a bad film. I do think Alien Covenant is. But Freddie Alcaraz, I believe his last name. You guys know I suck at this. But, he did the Evil Dead remake, and he also did Don't Breathe, and now he's taken this franchise and gave us one of the best Alien sequels we've ever had. I was impressed of how well they actually tied the story of this in to the first one. Even to the video game Alien Isolation. He found a way to incorporate everything in, and in a way, he did incorporate in the third act the engineers, and he did it in a way I was fine with. It all wrapped around and made sense, and finally someone got the point of how dangerous a creature can be with acid blood, and how that can wreck your entire ship and your life. Alien Romulus, love it. I cannot wait to see what else they do. Hopefully they bring Fred back and continue with him, because he's obviously got the talent for any franchise you throw at him. So you want to do our number 1 together?
Let's do it.
Hands down.
Yeah, we actually have the same number 1. I know the rest of the list is not the same, but our number 1 is the same.
All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Abigail.
I wish this movie had blown the box office up. I wish more people had seen it than have. And you go to a horror con, everyone's seen it.
Yeah.
But
I know this is one that I really wish we would have saw in the theaters, and we slept on it. And I had friends of mine telling me, "You need to see this movie. You need to see this movie." So we just decided one night, let's see the movie. Let's. I hear it's fantastic, and we're hooked. Like, absolutely hooked.
Well,
Love,
this-
love.
Well, the one reason I thought it wasn't going to be that great was because it felt to me like the first trailer gave everything away. So what am I going there for if I already know the premise and beat by beat what's going to happen? Oh, I was wrong.
Yep.
And it gave me probably the best line of the year. And you know it.
Oh, the onion line.
Baby, those are
The-
good onions.
Onions. I love it. Again, there's Catherine. She is just
Yeah.
like on it this year with her movies and and her acting. And I'm a huge fan of vampires. Like that's probably one of my genres that I've watched and seen and done all of that. Yes, a fan. Yes,
But
I'm a fan of all vampires.
But Abigail kind of threw in some of that 30 Days of Night vampire
Yes,
viciousness that I
yes.
love, and that's how I think vampires would actually be, as
Uh-huh.
vicious killers like that.
Yep.
But, she plays with her food, and that's what made it funny. But there are very serious tones to this film toward the end, and there's a twist in it that I love. So, hands down, Abigail, a 10 out of 10 for the year.
Yes, 10 out of 10,
Yes.
definitely. And it kind of reminded me, it had a little bit of that True Blood feel to
yeah.
it. True Blood that's another one of mine that's, but it had like a True Blood vampire feel to me.
Well, even, it's the last thing I'll say about it, but even the scene where they're all sitting around the bar getting to know each other.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing going on, but you're getting character development, and for me, I was hooked in that scene. I didn't need Abigail in that scene, and that's how well this film is written, shot, produced, acted, across the board.
Love it.
All right. So with that being that, I guess I'm going to get into just a few honorable mentions. Just going to mention their names where you can find them. Lisa Frankenstein, we touched on. That's an
Mhm.
honorable mention for me.
Yep.
One that you introduced me to this year, Milk and Cereal, on YouTube.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a really good
I
YouTube fan
Found
film.
footage, and she liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you introduced me to that, and it's an hour-long, free on YouTube, like, no budget, but you can't tell it.
Yeah.
And I love that it even has a twist that makes you feel like you're watching a full-length movie. So, well done. Props.
Yes. One of my honorable mentions was Afraid, the AI movie. Kind of had some suspense to it. It was really good. It's one I actually saw that you didn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely. I enjoyed Afraid.
Maxine.
Oh yeah. I had a hard time cutting that on my list.
Had a hard time cutting, so I had to do an honorable mention. I
Right.
still think Pearl is the best.
Yes, that's why mine's off.
Yeah.
Is because I think Pearl is much better.
This didn't really fit the tone of a horror slasher to me.
Mhm.
We just dove more into the character of Maxine herself, which wasn't bad at all.
No, it was a great movie. It just yep. Another one was Under Paris. So we just mentioned recently, we kind of forgot that we saw that in the beginning
Yeah.
of the year, one night after a con, just randomly finding a movie. But Under Paris was done, really well. I mean, if you're into like the shark movies and all of that, it was, it was a little more upscale Jaws. But I enjoyed it. It's definitely an honorable mention.
The best part of that film to me was the third act, because the third act just goes completely off the rails for a shark
Yes,
film.
that is true.
And you just have to see it. Just watch it for the third act. If you don't like this film, know that you're going to like the last 15 minutes.
True.
And then my last honorable mention is a movie called Mads. And it is streaming on Shudder, I believe. Take a zombie premise like 28 Days Later and do it in one single shot for an hour and a half. That's this film. It is impressive what they did with the camera. Is impressive. This entire film is in one take. Even to the special effects done on the fly. Everyone needs to see this film at least once. So again, Mads on Shudder. Is that yours?
I think that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a few that we've missed. Like, we didn't get to see Cuckoo. We didn't watch The Crow. Smile 2, we didn't because I've never seen the first Smile.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, so, what was it? The Strangers. Heretic is actually one that I really wish we could have gotten to. There just wasn't enough time because I've heard a lot of good things about Heretic. So, there probably are a few that we could have seen that maybe made our list, but this is out of what we've seen. This is our top 10 for 2024.
All right. Thank you guys, and thank you guys again for an incredible year.
Yes.
We will be back shortly next year with a new surprise con video.
Yes.
But,
yeah, we found a small con that we're going to this weekend. So we'll bring you along and kind of, we don't know what to expect.
At all.
So
We don't know.
it's going to be,
It's free to the public.
Yep.
So we're going to see what that's
a couple
like.
of people there doing some signing. So
Yeah. But with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. And like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already.
Yep.
And we'll see you probably when this comes out, it'll already be 2025.
Yeah, so Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. All right. I'll see you guys.
Bye.